We are super thrilled with the program so far, and we will not disappoint you with this session either. I'm super glad that at the start of this session, I will introduce Helena Strigård, who is the CEO of our National Industry Association Sweden BIO.
Well, thank you. I'm also very glad to be here because this is sort of my base camp, actually. I was born and raised in Uppsala. I studied here. I got my first job here. So it's really nice to come here physically as well. And I was asked to talk a little bit about building on common needs for competitive advantage. And I'm going to start by making a personal confession. I'm a highly competitive person. And so is my team and my whole organization. And we often take the opportunity to be just a little bit more agile or relevant or visible than whatever organization that we compare ourselves to. And competition is a very positive force in many ways. It makes us perform at our best, individuals, companies, regions, countries. But it can also be a quite disruptive force. And when that happens, we sort of chase the wrong targets. And it can even be that we sort of climb on top of each other just to be able to be the first one to put that flag on the moon. And I think that actually, a bit too often, I see in the ecosystem this dynamic where it seems to matter more to be able to add your own flag to a spot that is quite crowded already than to actually contribute and support somebody else's initiative. And I'm the first one to say that I would also quite often be quite tempted to go with that first option because it's the KPI logic that kicks in. But this is what we need to fight. I'm going to start with a really bright example, though. I want you to imagine the largest life science meeting that there is in the world. Some 20,000 life science professionals from companies, investors, researchers coming together to do business and exchange. And of course, this is a pre-COVID example, if you remember that type of world. But in this really amazing big meeting, you will have these pavilions, magnificent pavilions of the life science sector of Thailand, of Brazil, very expensive ones. And then you will have this tiny pavilion of just a few square meters where there's constantly a lot of people gathering. And it's because this pavilion, one of the reasons is because they serve the best coffee at the conference, and this is in the US. But it's not all about that. It's also because they have content, and they've gathered a critical mass of content. And it's the pavilion of one of the hottest, most innovative life science regions in the world, the Nordics. So I'm talking about BioConvention of 2019. That's the example I'm talking about here, where you had this consortium of regions and countries coming together to promote the Nordics jointly as a life science region. And if you think about it, where else in the world do you have 5 neighboring countries which all excel in the same field, the same academic field, the same industrial field? It's quite amazing how complementary we are. I mean, even Iceland, go check out their blue biotech. It's really amazing. So it made perfect sense for us to come together. And this example, it might not seem like a very big step for mankind, but it was a big step for us, because just a few years before, you would have all those regions and actors and countries being there, but individually, putting their efforts and their budgets on individual pavilions. So I think you get where I'm aiming at with this. We really need to raise awareness about what it takes to be internationally visible. Because international investors and companies, they don't really have those laser eyes needed to detect brands such as Flemingsberg Science Park or Hagastaden, although those are, of course, very important structures, local structures. But when we want to be visible to the outside world, we need to think in a different way. And also, when it comes to investors, it's very important that they have one point of entry. And that's why I'm the first one to encourage incubators and university holding companies or all those regional actors to really try to always think about how to be coordinated whenever we want to have that interaction to international actors. And last year, we gathered a group of actors from business and from academia, and we put together this report, which was our input to the National Life Science Strategy. And in this report, we put one of the key recommendations was the need to have a more coordinated approach to how to promote Sweden and the Nordics to the outside world. And we really need that because Sweden is too small when it comes to attracting talent or when it comes to all those, the intelligent capital that we need to fuel all our innovative companies. So that's something which we thought was one of the key elements to address in the National Life Science Strategy. And actually, I think they picked up on a lot of it. Most of our recommendations, they still hold true, but there is quite a lot of activity going on now in the Life Science Office and also in the government that I think is heading in the right direction. And I've given you here some examples from my world, my perspective as an industry representative. But I think that you can probably relate, even if you come from other sectors, the healthcare sector or academia, because we all have those same challenges in terms of joining forces to reach something, a higher aim. And I'm thinking of, for instance, the need to spread best practices within healthcare between regions. Guess you never heard that one before. And also incubators and science parks to really share expertise and contacts so that they can make efficient use of their resources. I would also like to bring up one key point, which is the importance of overcoming the lack of incentive systems for people to move from one sector to another. And not least when it comes to creating incentives for healthcare professionals to engage, put time and energy into clinical trials initiated by companies. So my point in all of this is not to say that we should not have really strong regional efforts or regional strategies. I'm all for it. It's imperative. Because of course it's on the local level that everything happens in the end. That's where you would have the establishment of new production facilities. That's where you have the patients. That's where you have the taxpayers, not least. So the regional level and the regional strategies, we need them. And we also need them in order to spur a little bit of that constructive, competitive feeling. For instance, as an industry representative for all of Sweden, if I want Uppsala to be a bit more engaged, or Lund, the best thing is to mention that, hey, you know, Lund is doing this, and vice versa. It always works. So that's quite useful. But at some point, you need to connect the dots between all those local strengths and regional strengths. And whatever level that your organization, your platform is working on, you need to look, okay, what is the level above and how can I contribute? How can my organization contribute to reach that higher aim? And for me, for Sweden BIO, doing that task for us, it means that we should connect with our neighbors in the Nordics. So we're part of this Nordic Life Science Consortium for Life Sciences. We're also constantly looking to connect with organizations in other sectors than our own, both here in Sweden, but also across the world. And our ultimate aim, our higher aim, is obviously in the end that we're in a business where it's about saving lives, improving lives, here and everywhere.